regarding the rider on the first horse, the white horse. If you remember, those who were here, we discussed that the rider on the white horse, there are different opinions about who that person is, but the most popular opinion is that he is the one world leader, or the man that will come on the scene that will negotiate a peace treaty between the Jews and the Arabs, and that he'll be a political guy. He won't be the evil man that we think of when we hear the term Antichrist or the name Antichrist. But today we're going to pick up in chapter 6, and I will begin at verse 1 and work through each of the seals. The first four are known as the four horsemen of the apocalypse. There have been things written about, books about the four horsemen and movies made about the four horsemen. But we're going to talk a little bit about those in detail, but not spend a lot of time on them. So verse 1 and 2 of chapter 6, and now I'm reading from the NLT version. As I watched, the Lamb broke the first of the seven seals on the scroll. Then I heard one of the four living beings say with a voice like thunder, "Come." I looked up and saw a white horse standing there. Its rider carried a bow, and a crown was placed on his head. He rode out to win many battles and gain the victory. So, the paper, the top sheet I gave you, that's actually, I'm just going to read through that to remind you, as well as those who weren't here, to bring you up to speed on what the first rider, this is just a summary of the lesson from 2 weeks ago. So the tribulation begins with this peace treaty, or at least that's the most popular belief regarding the timeline of the tribulation is when the treaty starts, because in Daniel we read chapter 9 about the man who will sign this treaty, and then it's a 7-year treaty, but he breaks it 3.5 years into the treaty. And so this is believed to be the white horse rider, the man that will be a government leader that will negotiate this treaty. But he's given a crown, meaning he'll be, in my opinion, he'll be crowned as the new world leader, because he has accomplished something that no one else has been able to accomplish, and that's to bring about peace in the Mideast. And he has appears to have answers to all the world's problems, the financial issues that the world faces. He has solutions to all kind of issues, and we could look at today's news and headlines and see comparisons of things that are being solved around the world by our president, that working all over the world to help resolve issues. And as I said some lessons back, is that this is the type of person that would become the Antichrist eventually. It's a man of intrigue, a man that gives a lot of words, speaks a lot of words, a charismatic type person, and that he will gain a big following, as well as he will have legitimate solutions that the world will accept, and they will make this man at that time the world leader. He will become the leader of the new one world government, or the new world order, as some people call it. So, and so he uses deception. It says he has a bow, and I brought this out previously, but there's no arrows mentioned, and this has been interpreted to believe that he'll use deception as his main tool or main weapon to conquer people through deception. And as we know, as we read through the last scriptures regarding the last days, deception is going to run rampant in the last days. And we see it already, very much so. So much that, as I've said before, AI is so deceptive. And I see people posting these things on social media about, this is great, that somebody is, this world star, somebody in the world is doing something, singing songs about Jesus. So it's AI generated. It's not truth at all. There's so much of that out there now that it's just going to be, we have to be real sensitive to the Holy Spirit's leading and be discerning to know truth. If you don't know the Word, it's going to be hard to decipher between what's truth and what's not truth. So deception is going to be, as I said, probably the illusion here of a bow with no arrows is that he will be deceptive. He'll look like he's got force because he has a weapon, but he has no ammunition to go with it other than just deception. And he will conquer many nations. We read this from Daniel 11 2 weeks ago. He'll conquer them, and many nations will become part of his kingdom. If you remember from Daniel, I think it's Daniel 2 we read, could have been Daniel 7. Both of them, I think, refer to this, but about the one particular is where the kingdom that will be the different kingdoms, beginning with Nebuchadnezzar, working all the way through to the Roman Empire, and then the feet that are made, the toes are clay and iron mixed together. If it sounds like I'm struggling this morning, I am a little bit. So, not feeling the greatest. So, it mentions in that passage about there will be another kingdom that will not last long. Right before the kingdom that's set up, that will be cut out the rock, not by human hands, that will be Jesus' kingdom. So the kingdom that says it will not last long is this kingdom here, the one that the one world leader will set up. It'll be his so-called empire at that time. So for the first 3.5 years, he protects Israel. Whether this is through deception, I don't think it really is. I think this is the goal of the guy when he negotiates the treaty is for this, but something happens 3.5 years into the tribulation that causes him to do a 180, and he will then turn against them. He will, as I mentioned also before, that it's possible that he will be assassinated, or he will receive a wound that appears to be more a fatal wound, and that then at that time will be the midpoint of the tribulation. That's Daniel 11. I've got scripture there, actually verse 45. It mentions that his time will run out. Is that something will happen at the midpoint that causes him to turn from being just a one world leader, dictator, into being the evil man that we know or call the Antichrist. He is not that from the beginning. And if we read, as you remember, we read in chapter 12 of Daniel, so immediately after it says that his time runs out, it says in Daniel 12:1 that at this time Michael will arise, and there will be then a war that's waged, and that is what we read also in Revelation 12. I believe is the exact same thing when Michael and his angels wage war against Satan and his angels, and Satan loses his position as the god of this world, and so he then turns against Israel at this point. All right. As I mentioned last week in the Sunday school party, some of you weren't here, is that in Revelation 12, that's when we get to the midpoint of the tribulations, Revelation 12. And we read there, or will read there, of the vision John sees of the dragon waiting before the woman who is pregnant, fixing to give birth. And that it says this child, he's ready to devour the child, and that this child is destined to rule with an iron rod. What that indicates to me is that Satan is aware that there is someone coming that's going to remove him from his kingdom and from being the god of this world, and that he is through a male child. That is why he had Herod killed all the newborn males up to 2 years of age. And so he was trying to stop from that. The vision is if he could kill the male child, Jesus, then he would stop his kingdom from being taken from him. Because Jesus is coming to restore what was lost at the Garden of Eden, which was the dominion of this world, which was given to man. Okay, and then when we get to Revelation 13, verses 1 through 4, we read about the beast that John sees coming up out of the sea. And that beast is the dragon, or Satan. It says, it's at this point that he breaks the treaty. So chapter 12 of Revelation will end up being with the midpoint. We actually hit the midpoint of the tribulation period, and Michael and his angels wage war against Satan and his angels, and Satan is kicked down to earth. He loses his position as God of this world. He is kicked down to the earth. He comes down with a vengeance, knowing his days are short, knowing that he's fixing to lose his kingdom. He's going to lose his position as God of this world. Remember what we are taught about Lucifer? He was kicked out of the heaven, true heaven, because of pride and wanting to take God's place. That's still what's going on when we get to the last days. That Satan will still be wanting to be God. He will actually set himself up in the temple of Jerusalem, set on the throne, declaring himself to be God. But one thing about it, as we get into it, is that in the first half of the tribulation, he's more of the dictator. In the last half, he's more of seeking to be worshipped. Spiritual thing, not a political thing, a spiritual thing. And that is that also in chapter 13 when the false prophet appears. And the false prophet is the one who will force people to worship the beast. They will be forced to take the mark of the beast, meaning they are pledging allegiance to serve the beast. And this is the way Satan's going to try to garnish the worship of mankind, worship of God's creation, is through forcing them, you face death or you're going to worship me. And that's through the coercion that the false prophet presents. Then we'll get to the Battle of Armageddon in chapter 19 of Revelation, and that's when this person who is the Antichrist, which is Satan in the flesh, make sure I hope you get that connection. At the midpoint of the tribulation, Satan will, I believe, enter the one world leader, and he will come back to life, or he will become Satan possessed. He will then be everything against Israel and Christians. It says in chapter 12 of Revelation that he will, when he comes down to earth, he says he's coming with a vengeance because he knows his days are short. He will go after Israel and after her offspring, which are Christians. All right, so that brings us to the second seal. Anybody have any comments or questions about any of that? I know some of that might be new material from what you've been taught, but
okay.
That's
what you spoke about, New World, I'm familiar. The New World, the unseen here, that you speak about Christian. It was made by Rob Episode, right? Rather long time ago. Got it. All three books in the Da Vinci Code, right? Now, the New World Order, as you say, is then the numeral 66, the form of the beast. You was right. People must focus themselves more on God than the world of the materialists, because the world is so corrupt that you are easy to get into it and follow the world. If you have focused on God, the world will spit you up.
That's good.
Spit you up.
That's a good point. And actually, as we get into the book of Revelation, we'll get into the part about Babylon, and that's really, Babylon is descriptive of the corruption in the world, in the world system, separating, when we speak of be not, you can be in the world but not of the world. The world system is what Babylon represents, which is basically built upon greed and immorality. So that'll be coming up as we get further. Any others, questions or comments about the first seal? Okay.
Well, I could see, I don't really have a question, but it just seems so clear that, the ground beneath us is so corrupt from thousands of years of not obeying God. And,
Well, as Satan is the God of this world, he has governed and created a world that is
he's got us
ungodly. Yeah.
to this place.
Right. And that's why Jesus came in the fullness of time when he came, because it's time for Jesus to come. We just celebrated his birth, but it's in the fullness of time. Paul says that he came for God to begin the process of redeeming what Satan had corrupted. That's really what the birth of Jesus is about, is God begins the process of redeeming what was corrupted by the God of this world. Okay, any others? Everybody clear as mud on the first seal? All right, the second seal, verse 3 and 4. When the Lamb broke the second seal, I heard the second living being say, "Come." Then another horse appeared, a red one. Its rider was given a mighty sword and the authority to take peace from the earth, and there was war and slaughter everywhere. All right, so following the first horse, when this political leaders made the king of this new world order, this new one world government, it will be done through deception. And there will be many people, I believe, that will realize too late that they have put a man in position based on lies and deception. And that he begins issuing his dictates and his regulations of how this new world order is going to run. A lot of it probably have to do with some of the things we are hearing in the news in the last decade regarding saving the planet and all these things that are basically worshiping the planet, Mother Nature. Some of these dictates that he's going to come up with, this is my opinion, okay, so don't go looking for a scripture to support this, but he will cause things to be put in motion that will cause a rebellion, that it will cause people to rebel against him, rebel against the new government. And if the rapture is not pre-trib, if the rapture is later than pre-trib, and I believe it will be, is that many Christians will die because they will rebel against what the new world leader wants them to bow down to do, to follow his dictates. I mean, we're talking about things that probably we've not even thought about at this point that could be put into laws that would restrict us as Christians. We already see it happening in other nations, but in America we would see it. And things that would cause Christians to rebel. It'll also cause, I believe, for civil wars between people that support this leader and those that oppose this leader. There'll be sides chosen, and there'll be like civil war because if you don't support him, you're not for the good of the world. You're a hindrance to the world being better if you don't side with him. And so there'll be these opposing forces. Do what?
It'll be like what we're going through.
It'll be similar to that, I would say, yes. And so the other thing that I see, it can be, as we have seen through the last 2 or 3 political seasons, is a breakup in family, of family members turning against family members.
Yeah.
And I was reminded of what Jesus told his disciples, and this is out of context. I do acknowledge it's out of context, but it fits and could very well fit this. When Jesus told his disciples before he sent them out to do ministry, this is Matthew 10, says, a brother will betray his brother to death, a father will betray his own child, and children will rebel against their parents and cause them to be killed. I mean, that fits exactly what I'm describing. When you're not on the right team, then you become an enemy. The enemy of the world, enemy of the state, so to speak. But everyone who endures to the end will be saved. When you're persecuted in one town, flee to the next. I tell you the truth, the Son of Man will return before you have reached all the towns of Israel. But don't be afraid of those who threaten you, for the time is coming when everything that is covered will be revealed. Have you ever seen a time, or have we ever known of a time when more things have been revealed that we didn't know were underlying? And all that is secret will be made known to all. There's not much yet left. We don't know what's left secret, but so much is coming out that we're not aware of how corrupt our own government was. Don't be afraid of those who want to kill your body. They cannot touch your soul. Fear only God, who can destroy both soul and body in hell. So I know that's not in context, but it is very, and I think this could be very descriptive of what those days will be like when that red horse comes. The rider on the red horse causes rebellion, causes death because of that. There'll be many that are killed because of it. And then you get to the third seal. This is verses 5 and 6. When the Lamb broke the third seal, I heard the third living being say, come. I looked up and saw a black horse, and its rider was holding a pair of scales in his hand. And I heard a voice from among the 4 living beings say, a loaf of wheat bread or 3 loaves of barley will cost a day's pay, and don't waste the olive oil and wine. So the rider on this third horse, it's a black horse, and the black represents famine, and then it's also high inflation. And so we look at it in as a new world leader, new government set in place, new world leader, and then in order to get the people under control, this agency is set up. We can call it the Red Horse Agency, that's still the CIA, the RHA, that is set up to control people and to take those out who are not going to support the government, so to speak. And then you get to this third horse, the black horse, the famine and high inflation. This could be, and these are all my opinions, so please take it as just that, is that the government can use famine, can create famine. Actually, Russia did this in 1932 and 33 to Ukraine. There's been conflict between those two countries for a long time, periods of time. They created a man-made famine, cut off the supply of food to the Ukraine. Over 1 million Ukrainians died in those 2 years because of the famine that was created by Russia. And so famines can be not just a natural thing, although they can be, but they can also be something that is created by man, and it can be created to control people. You remember when the Assyrians attacked the 10 tribes? They starved them to death, basically. You remember that they were eating their own children? I mean, it's that bad. And then when the AD 70, when the Romans attacked Jerusalem, they basically cut off all supply of food coming into the city till people starved to death. So this is a means of warfare, famine is. And high inflation can also happen because of government control to create such the prices so high that people cannot afford to buy the basic necessities of life. I know it sounds like I'm a conspiracy theorist.
You should hear some of my theories.
I know. I was in Quebec. I'm kind of now in them. Yeah, I was in New York. So I know what you're saying is true.
Common sense.
1977, I became a Marine.
Just common sense.
1977.
Well, it's a means of control. And when you look at when you get to the time when it's a one world government, there's going to be necessity to control people. I mean, because you got all these different viewpoints coming from all of different cultures and backgrounds. So there will be needing a means to control people and bring people under the leadership of this new one world leader. Now, he won't be the evil man, although the things he does are not good. It's just he won't be Satan in the flesh until the midpoint of the tribulation when he turns evil. But other possibilities are that trucking could be shut down. Diesel prices rise so high that they can't afford to ship goods. The goods end up costing so much. Or you shut down the ports so that you can't unload the containers. Y'all heard about that happening before. We didn't have enough toilet paper to go around. Everybody was saving toilet paper. But that these kind of things we look at and we don't think much about when we see them happen today. But these are all tools and weapons that can be used to control people and get the people to fall into step with the leader, Parsons.
Given our familiarity with potentials, could these events be cyclical rather than simply prophetic?
Could be. Go ahead.
Never mind.
If it comes back, if you feel like you need
Oh,
to.
I have it, but I'll just.
Another thing that has gone on, is going on, and we don't, unless you're kind of up on things in the news, is that the government, as well as other countries, are buying up farmlands in America and not being able to be used for farming. They're taking some by eminent domain, meaning they declare them to be theirs. I know I sound like a conspiracy theorist, but I see these things as being potential ways that we get set up for these last days when the one world government takes over.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Why is the president letting them buy?
President's not letting them buy them in. I mean, that's something that individual landowners make a decision to sell their property. Although I think the president has tried to step in to stop China from buying up other lands here because they bought up lands near military bases. But Anyway, all these things, though, I'm just bring to your attention that we see these things taking place in today's time that can still be stepping stones or be used in a more a higher potential rate than what it has been. It's like maybe even COVID. Here again, don't throw rocks at me, but even the COVID thing that went through, it became one of the greatest control thing of people we've ever seen.
Yeah.
You know, shut down.
It's messed
shut
up
down,
a
COVID
generation of young people.
Yeah.
Messed up my wife for a month.
So things like this could happen in the last days during these four horsemen that come on the scene that could cause these things. And when we get to the fourth horseman, it's verses 7 and 8. It says, when the Lamb broke the fourth seal, I heard the fourth living being say, come. I looked up and saw a horse whose color was pale green. Its rider was named Death, and his companion was the Grave. These two were given authority over 1/4 of the earth to kill with the sword and with famine and disease and wild animals. So the fourth horseman, in my opinion, is almost like a cleanup guy. He's coming in behind all of what's happened after the red horse and after the black horse, the deaths that have taken place during that time, and that he is, death in the grave. A lot of people are killed because a lot of people die because of these things, but it says they are given authority to reduce the population of the earth. That's not exactly the way it says it, but it says they're given the authority to kill 25% of the population. They're given the ability and authority, let's reduce the population by 25%. Okay? I know that may sound a little strange to you, but the government can do that. Okay? A one world government. And I do want to give kind of a praise thing, I guess, read this morning that President Trump did work with Nigeria to try to attack ISIS that is killing all the Christians in Nigeria. That there's something good going there that because they were being killing them by tens of thousands of Christians there. I think 50,000 churches have been burned in Nigeria. So it's just crazy how it's the Muslims against Christians. But anyway, if we were to say the population was around 7 billion at that time, after some have died already, that would mean that 25% would be 1,750,000,000 to be killed at that time for the black horse. I mean, the pale green horse comes on the scene, fourth horse. So when we get to the fifth seal, what has taken place in the previous seals now, seals 1 through 5, all the things that's taken place that's caused people to die, there are Christians here when that takes place. I know that, well, I thought we'd be out of here. Well, I hope we are. I hope. But there are believers many believers that's going to die during the first seals. Because the fifth seal says, verses 9 through 11, when the Lamb broke the fifth seal, I saw under the altar the souls of all who had been martyred for the word of God and for being faithful in their testimony. They shouted to the Lord and said, O sovereign Lord, holy and true, how long before you judge the people who belong to this world and avenge our blood for what they have done to us? Then a white robe was given to each of them, and they were told to rest a little longer until the full number of their brothers and sisters, the fellow servants of Jesus who were to be martyred, had joined them. What's that say? The fifth seal is revealing to John there are going to be many Christians who die during the first part of these seals that are broken, that their souls, their spirits are going to be crying out, how much longer before you stop this, God? See what they're doing to us as believers. And when are you going to take vengeance on this? He says, just be patient. I'll give you a robe here. Just let that take care of you for right now. Let that pacify. You've got your robe, your robe of righteousness, but just wait because there's more yet to die. So that was like good news, bad news. Good news, you got your robe of righteousness. Bad news, there's a lot more yet to die. Believers that will die. Okay? All right. So I don't want that to mess you up and think that you're going to have to go through the tribulation. We don't know how long that's going to be before it starts. But be prepared one way or the other that you're hoping.